this morning. He's a brilliant business man. I think I can say that, as well as a very worthy ABC award winner. He's a group director of HQ Group. Hasan has driven the growth and expansion of HQ Group's brands, including Burger Drop, which now is franchised locations across the country, with a new branch opening soon in the Gate, Newcastle. And this is Donna, which has been serving customers successfully for over a year. Known for his entrepreneurial vision and commitment to quality, customer experience and innovation, Hasan continues to scale HQ Group while supporting businesses and communities across the UK. Nominations are still open, by the way. Who will win the next ABC Business Award? But in the meantime, let's get our very worthy winner on here, and let's hear all from him. Hasan.
How are you?
Hi.
Thanks for the very high energy introduction.
Yeah, brilliant introduction. Good morning.
Morning.
Delighted to have you on here. So whilst I've done an introduction, Hasan, just tell us who you are, what you do, why you do it, please.
So my name is Hasan Hamid, born and bred in Newcastle, raised in the West End of Newcastle. Went to school in Gosforth Academy, studied in Newcastle College, and did my degree at Northumbria University. So very much a Tyneside. Launched my first business while I was in final year university. So I know a lot of entrepreneurs have these like super interesting origin stories where some random idea popped in their head, and next thing you know, they're running this amazing business. But for me, from a very young age, I would say probably from the age of about 13, 14, I was always very interested in business. So I didn't know what sector I would be in, and I had no specific desire to be in any sector, but I knew for sure that I wanted to be an entrepreneur and I wanted to run businesses. And whatever business I did, I knew that I had a lot of ambition to scale and grow that business. So I studied business leadership and corporate management at Northumbria. It's a degree program that unfortunately they don't run anymore, but it was a really unique course because it was only 1 year that you would be in full-time university. Second and third year, you would do what they were called study blocks, and you would either open your own business alongside your degree program, and you do your assignments basically based on your business, or you would go out into work and do a placement. So I did a combination of the two. In second year, I did an internship with a recruitment agency, just so I could get exposure to a lot of big businesses, because every large business has to use a recruiter, right? So I thought a great way for me to see how these large businesses operate is to go into recruitment, meet a lot of the CEOs, chief execs, and learn how they kind of operate. So I did that for a year, and then on the back of that, I launched my first business, which was GYB, which is a social media marketing agency, and then ran that business for a number of years during the kind of rise of social media. I don't know if this is too much of a long introduction, by the way.
No, go. This is your story, please. It's
I'm not going too deep but I'm just
no, go deep. Go deep.
We've got an appointment at 12 o'clock. That's the only thing.
Yeah.
I've got one at 1, but that's all right.
So yeah, I launched that as social media started to rise, and at that time it was amazing because we would speak to business owners and they would be like, yeah, I think my nephew set up a Facebook page somewhere and there's something happening, because it was so early on the trend. And at that time, social media was seen as something where individuals would go on and interact with their friends and family. It wasn't really seen as a platform to drive a business forward. So we got in at a really good time. And I worked with a lot of businesses, some of them very, very successful today. We got in when they were doing maybe a few £100 a month, and today they're doing, millions of pounds. And we were part of that scale journey. So that was an amazing experience for me as well, because I worked with some great businesses and also some not so great businesses. So it gave me even more exposure to take lessons from those that had achieved great success, but also those that things didn't quite work out. And you start to see the correlation between the businesses that are doing really well and those that didn't really get where their ambitions wanted them to be. So I ran that business for a number of years, but after a few years, the one thing I didn't like about the agency model is I still felt like my clients were my boss. I wanted a little bit more freedom. And I felt like even if you delivered on every single front for a business, there's no real loyalty there. You know, the max contract you're going to have is 12 months, and clients were always coming in and out. And I thought, 20, 30 years from now, I don't want to be in a position where I haven't got like a solid client base and you're constantly having churn of clients. And at that time, we worked with a lot of food brands. It was one of our bigger areas. Our two biggest areas were e-commerce businesses and hospitality and food brands. And back then, we just seen the rise of the better burger space. So people had realized there was better than typical frozen patty, which is dry and doesn't have a great texture to it. And QSR was starting to boom and emerge. We're talking early 2020 here. Sorry, it was on mute there. I don't know if you were saying something, but yeah. So early 2020 here, and that's when I decided to open Burger Drop. It was supposed to be a bit of a side venture. It was supposed to be a bit of fun. That me and my brother-in-law were going to do just as something to try out and test the market. But we had huge success. I think in our first year we turned over £1 million, which is huge for an independent site, not in city centre, on a, I would say, tertiary high street. That's when we realized there's really something in this brand, and we had a lot of people coming from other parts of the country. People saying you should franchise this. This could go great everywhere, and the rest is kind of history. We then took our time to develop the franchising model because there's a right way to do franchising and there's a wrong way to do franchising. And we're about slow and steady growth, but ensuring that the growth is sustainable. Franchisees are getting the right type of support. And when we launched the franchising, sort of middle of last year, on the back of that, in our first kind of 4 months of advertising franchising, we got like 200 plus inquiries. From them, we've converted our first set of franchises. So we've opened in Edinburgh, Sunderland, Whitley Bay, Manchester. We've got the gate opening next week, which is our first in-venue experience. So we're opening in Fair Play there, which is a really exciting entertainment venue. And 2 weeks after, we've got Middlesbrough opening. So busy period, which is more than enough for us for our first year of franchising. The plan is once all of these stores are fully bedded in, maybe sometime during this winter, we'll then relaunch our franchising advertising and start to recruit again. So the aim is to go fully national because right now we're still in Northern England and Scotland, but very happy and satisfied with where we are at the moment.
Brilliant. What do you think about that, Alan?
Very interesting. I'm intrigued. What would be the unique selling point of the business?
Sure. So really good question. And I think it's a really interesting question because we've actually had that evolve over time. I live by the quote that the worst place in business to stand is still. And as the market's evolved, we've had to evolve what our offering is. And we've had to make it very clear to our customers how we differentiate from the competition because there are a lot of players in the better burger space. Where we try to separate from everyone is it's a diverse model in that it's great for delivery, takeaway, and sit-in. It's not like a sit-down restaurant. We sit within the QR space, but our focus is on no gimmicks, but great quality ingredients, fresh products, everything we can trace back to the source. So we have our own warehouse. All of the meat goes to our own warehouse. It's prepped by our own in-house butcher. We do our own mint 7 days a week. We've got our own logistics set up to deliver to all of the stores. Our spices, sauces, seasonings are all made in that warehouse so that we can quality control it all. So our real point of difference is why, while also these burger brands are doing wild and wacky things right now, we're sticking to the core of what makes a great burger, which is ultimately you live and die by the quality of your beef, how good the bun is, the sauces, the salad, and the core ingredients. So we're dropping all of the fluff. That's what we call it. We say we drop the fluff and we're keeping the good stuff of the burger, but we're evolving it into the modern market. So I would say, to summarize that, what makes us different is sticking to the art of quality burger making, but offering that on a very versatile level so customers can get it for takeaway, delivery, and sit-in, whilst maintaining affordability and avoiding all of the gimmicks that you see in food brands right now.
I don't know whether you listened to the first part of the show where Amar and I were talking, right? But Amar's been on about marketing, right? And I keep saying I'm a little bit mature, but how do you utilize the digital world of marketing to promote what you've already discussed? And I've enjoyed listening to you about your USP.
So it's a huge
Can I just jump in there? Sorry, only because I think And I've observed, I'm quite fortunate because I'm really old. I'm fortunate to have observed lots of businesses and what they call the bell curve of businesses. And Hasan has probably learned all of this. But I'd say one of the key, if not the most critical part of the journey of Burger Drop, Hassan, was your experience and expertise of marketing. So there's no question about the success of a business like yours as a differentiator has been how it's been marketed and and that type of thing. But it'd be great if you could answer Alan's question, because it's, I know you were going to come on to do that, but it's like, if I observe what is one of the differences, it's brilliant. You're absolutely right. It is about the quality of the food, and of course, it's about that experience. That experience is the ability to share that experience as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree 100%. And I think the space is so competitive now, and the behavior of the consumer, especially amongst Gen Z and millennials, is very habit driven. So what I mean by that is Gen Z and millennials will follow the trend. This is backed by all of the data. So if a brand is perceived to be the go-to brand, you will find now a lot of consumers aren't even making their own decisions about where they should spend their money. They're making decisions based on what influencers are telling, where influencers are telling them they should go, or where they feel is cool. And there's a number of brands that, like, most famously, the largest or the biggest food brand, I would say, in the UK in the past decade, by a long stretch, would be Wingstop. They most recently just completed a £400 million exit in the space of a few years, without having any stores in the UK before that. And they absolutely nailed their target audience of Gen Z and millennial just through creating this amazing culture through social media. So that is a key and a core part of our strategy as a business. And I would say, even though we've got all of these franchisees and so many things that are happening operationally, the majority of my time is probably still spent on that marketing piece because that's how critical it is. So our marketing strategy is very deep, uh, and it encompasses so many different things because we have the overall strategy that sits at the top, but then we have the requirement to be present on all of these different platforms because there's so many platforms nowadays. And the problem is for small business owners, because there's so many platforms, they all require a unique set of content. You don't post the same thing on TikTok, LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram. But if you really want to be a step ahead of the curve, you need to be present on all of them. So I feel like it's probably not just me, but all these modern business owners are probably assessing their time and thinking, bloody hell, the majority of it is on marketing and awareness. But that's the nature of scaling a modern brand. You have to be present on everything. So we do have a strong team now. So we've got a full-time marketing manager that sits within the business. He creates all of the content. So his job is just to create content, videos, photography all day long, edit all of the graphic design work that we have, and also do all of the social posting. Separate to that, we have a dedicated individual who's just creating content now for TikTok, because what we found is TikTok is a completely different animal. The type of content that we post on Facebook and Instagram doesn't really work on TikTok. So we have a separate dedicated individual who builds that. And just last week, we've onboarded a new agency just to manage the ad spend for ads that we're doing on the platforms. And then, as well as that, I'm still sitting above managing all of these teams and very deep into what is a marketing strategy, what things are we planning to separate ourselves from the competition. So, most recently, we just launched our drop series, which I would invite you both to have a look at on the social media and the Instagram and Facebook. It's a very unique series because we've recruited two really well high regarded chefs, one from Liverpool and one from Newcastle. And every month they're battling head to head, developing a really high quality burger. They've got Rosette experience, Michelin stars, independent food scenes. So really high level experience that you wouldn't necessarily associate with QSR, but we've brought them in to deliver something different and unique to our customers. So every month they make a different burger that's only running for that month. We create a series around it, episode, so you hear their stories. It's got gamification in there, all of the different elements. Customers can come in at the end and actually try the burger as well, and then compare which burger was better. So that's a really exciting piece of content, which is a key part of our strategy, as well as loads of other things. But marketing is like the core of our growth strategy, really.
Brilliant. That was incredibly insightful, And I'm going to go, whilst you were sharing that, I was thinking I might want to do a business off with Alan. So Alan and I have a talk off or something like that. Speak off. Whatever.
Well, in a previous life, I was taught to think in threes. So from the marketing strategy of our colleague, what would be his top 3 hints for new business relevant to the digital world?
So the first thing I would say is a lot of people talk about economy and business being difficult in this day and age, but this is a little bit more wider net advice as opposed to just marketing in general. But I would say to succeed in business, you have to be very much an optimist. If you're a pessimist, you're going to really struggle in business because business is all about fighting through hurdles. Anybody that runs a startup knows that it's chaotic. You're going to face a lot of challenges. And those that actually succeed are those that are willing to break through those challenges. So you have to be very optimistic. And the reason why I share that is I believe now more than ever, business owners have a huge advantage which never existed before, and that is freedom of information and access to information. Before it was very difficult to find out about how to run any particular business, but there is so much information out there now on podcasts, YouTube. If you're willing to do the search and dig, you can get access to so much high quality information, whatever sector of business you're trying to launch. On top of that, we have great AI resources like ChatGPT, which save you hours and hours on endless research to really cut through all of the noise and get really good quality information if you know how to use them tools properly. And then with platforms like LinkedIn, you have access to anybody and everybody just through a single message. And some of the mentors who've been critical in supporting my business over the years, who I've gained so much advice from, has been via LinkedIn. People that I would assume probably wouldn't offer me their help have offered to help me for free just by a LinkedIn message. People always ask me, "Oh, how did you get in touch with that person?" I just say, "I just messaged them on LinkedIn." It's not even that complex. I just messaged them saying, "Look, this is the business I'm running. You've proven yourself in this sector. Do you mind helping me?" And quite often you do get a positive response. So I share that because the same applies when it comes to marketing and social media. There's a lot of information out there. The first thing that you have to do to enable you to grow your business is go and absorb it all. You need to understand how the platforms work. You can launch an ad on Facebook by spending £5. Previously, if people were looking at marketing activities for their business, they were like, okay, is it going to be 5,000, 10,000? How much have we got to spend? You'd have to spend, tens of thousands of pounds to launch a concept. Now you can have someone sat in their house, have an idea of a item of clothing they want to sell or whatever, and launch a Facebook page, spend £5 on an ad and get visibility. So the barrier to entry for business owners is a lot lower. There's obviously an opposite side to that scale. It means there's a lot more competition, but it's up to you to make yourself stand out from the competition. So the first piece of advice you ask for free, I would say, is go out and get the information. That applies to any area of business. It's very accessible. YouTube, podcasts, there's loads of these online course platforms as well, where you can check the reviews from other people who've bought their courses to see if they're knowledgeable and verifiable and credible. Um, Second piece of advice I would say is just start producing content. People look at these brands and sometimes I get people sending me the videos from Burger and say, wow, the videos look so great. But I would say go right back in the archives to what we used to post in 2020 when we first opened. They look nowhere near as good as it does now. It's took years to refine that. And any big YouTuber, any big channel that has amazing content, I always go right back into the archives and you'll see the brand evolution. It's all visible now. You can see, and you'll see the first content they put out. It probably was them just taking a picture on their mobile phone of the shop saying, "Yeah, we're proud to be open. It's a great moment for me," etc. But 2 years down the line, you see how that content becomes more sophisticated. So a lot of people are scared of putting out content because they feel like it might not be uh, 4K, super edited, and really sharp and color coded and all of that. But it doesn't matter at the early stage. It's just about putting content out there. So, one, go and access the information. It's all there for you for free. Second, start producing content. You got to be out there. You only get better by practicing. And the third tip, I think I've give the first two tips are so long. There's probably enough in there that I don't need to give a third one. But off the top of my head, I would say try not to focus too much on ads when you're in the early stage and paid advertising. because I've seen a lot of great businesses that rely heavily on Facebook ads. So they might be turning over 10,000 a month, but if they're spending £7,000 a month on ads, it's not a long-term sustainable model. So whenever you're building your marketing strategy, you need a key element of that to include organic reach. That's probably me speaking more from an agency lens, because brands that purely rely on Facebook ads, they're going to really struggle to scale because they're just going to have that constant churn of ad spend, ad spend, ad spend. It's great to use ads. It gives you more exposure for your business, but you still need an organic strategy. And for us, that's what the Drop series is about. That series that we've launched, we feel like that's an organic way to bring in customers instead of just constantly plowing money and franchisee capital into ads. Hopefully,
Very interesting, and love listening to you, if that makes sense. We've never spoke before, but very interesting hearing you speak about your business, the marketing, and the strategy.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
That was brilliant. Brilliant. I always do enjoy talking to Hasan because he practically shares his journey and advice. And then the importance of recognition, the importance of awards. I think it was brilliant. You were incredibly deserved to win the ABC awards, and Alan has been involved with ABC from the outset. So Alan's seen equally the evolution of ABC, how it's grown, how it's changed, how at one point we lived at the top of one of the tallest buildings, or felt like, because we didn't have a lift in the city centre. And it was just a group of merry women and men, coming together, wanting to make a difference. And then it's evolved. We've designed, developed, delivered a whole range of programs. And from the outset, when I'd set it up, we've remained true. So, we've always been connecting, supporting, and promoting, haven't we, Alan, as an organisation?
Oh, absolutely. But in the context of the conversation we've just had in the last few minutes and listening to our colleague here, it's always nice to see the new members and the younger members coming through, if that makes sense, and supporting their success and hopefully helping where appropriate. And obviously, I know you do a lot with that, Amar, more than I do. But, you're always a sort of a voice of entrepreneurship if somebody needs to pick the phone up.
I think it's brilliant. Having someone like Hasan now come on, share this. It's probably the most business we've spoken on there on our show business for quite some time.
You're going to have to be careful, because Hasan might be setting a precedent.
I think yes, obviously. I'll have to start talking more business now, and I'll go back to reading my one of the best books. Just by the way, right?
Oh no!
How old I am, right? Was because that information wasn't available. But here's a big book, right? And I stand on it now when I want to reach something. But at one point, this was, I think it's in black and white, is what it is. Anyway, it was every single business authority, every single leader. You can probably see my post-it notes in the top there when I was doing, and all of this, I should just pick this up and do that with it, because it's all actually available, as Hasan says, online.
I think just a point on that in terms of books. It's still, they say with every innovation, and as things change, there's always a little downside. And I think one of the downside is, amongst the younger generation, there is less of an appreciation for books. However, there's still a lot of, because I still read books, because I believe if you want to go deep into a topic, you get loads of information online. And I'm a big podcaster, partly because I spend so much time on the road and in the gym. So I'm like podcasts. So I'll probably listen to about 15 to 20 hours of podcasts every single week. So I'm absorbing loads of information from podcasts, but I still believe the quality of information that you'll find in a book is always stronger, because this is almost like a podcast experience now. Nothing's as rehearsed, and people are saying things kind of off the cheek, whereas in a book, it's gone through several revisions before it's published. So you'll find a lot more, you'll find a lot more authority and a lot more clout behind the information. It's a lot more trustworthy and credible in a physical book as opposed to maybe online and in the digital landscape. So I think, although it's great that we've got all this information, at the same time, I do always encourage younger people. I say, don't negate books. You've got like my bookshelves right there. You still got to have books alongside a lot of that digital knowledge, because sometimes there's a lot of bad knowledge out there as well. Like, people
Oh,
that
there is. Oh, look, I write stuff, as in which people are like, oh my gosh, I do try and type and use digitize. You're absolutely right. Nothing compares to a book. And, I'm just looking over some books over there, a whole host of them. They're really useful. They're methodical. That's how I absorb information more than I struggle with podcasts, to be honest, Hassan. Because my brain wanders far too much. Anyway, but the point of this wasn't.
Sorry, time's getting on. So one last question for Hassan. I can't see him now. But do you let dogs in your premises?
Depends on the premises. The only one where we're kind of flexible at it is Whitley Bay, because it's near the coast and there's a lot of dog walkers around.
The only reason was, again, you didn't hear us talking. Amar knows I've got a cavapoo, right? He's just turned 6. And Amar's known him since he was literally 10 weeks old. But the other side is, one of the things when you're talking about marketing, I've learned about what some people describe as the pooch pound. Now, I don't have a problem of people wanting to eat and not have a dog nearby. But there's a lot more restaurants and places have sort of set areas for people with dogs. And I just wondered whether that's part of your strategy.
Yeah, it's not part of the strategy, in all honesty. The only site where we've been flexible on it, like I said, has been Whitley Bay, partly because it's near the coast and there's a lot of dog walkers. And people are a bit more open to it there. And it's the more open restaurant in terms of size and space. A lot of the others are smaller. So we are QSR. So none of our restaurants are more than like 20, 25 seats, apart from Edinburgh. But that's in city centre and it's quite a large site. So typically it's not part of the strategy. But yeah, interesting question that I wasn't expecting.
No, good. Alan's good like that. And there's probably certain places and spaces, going back to demographics, Alan, where it is, and it might suit. Lots of people in places don't like dogs, or kuttas, as they would be translated into.
And I have no problem with that whatsoever. It's
I know you don't.
We've discussed the pooch pound.
Power to Winston is what it is. Happy birthday. Anyway, I have got one final question, Hassan. So I was coming on to this, and like my head, we get distracted. So the award, what's the importance of recognition? And that was where the Connect, Support, Promote. We've focused heavily as an organisation, a not-for-profit social enterprise, to celebrate, connect, support, promote people. Tell me about the importance of that.
So, a lot of importance, I think. There are so many benefits, and as an organization, you guys are obviously doing fantastic work. But I feel like now it's more critically important than ever. Without taking it down a political direction, but there's so much anti-immigration rhetoric out there right now. We've even faced the brunt of it. So typically I'll share a story which is, I think, very critical for people to understand. So because it's really important as business owners that we kind of counteract a lot of the negative press. But whenever we do a press release for a new store on social media, 80% of it is usually positive. You're always going to get negative comments on social media as part of social media. But for the first time ever, we've seen 80% negative comments on social media. And all of them, based on our Middlesbrough launch, and all of them were related to this anti-immigration rhetoric. We had comments such as, another brown business that got a license. We had comments such as, how much money they're laundering through there. Just all sort of crazy accusations. But these are all things which have been promoted by certain politicians. So we faced the brunt of all of this negative immigration rhetoric, even though I'm actually not an immigrant, I'm born here. But just because my name was on some of the articles, people have just came to these assumptions, and we've been accused of laundering money, which is really unfair because we pay a lot of tax and a lot of that hits me quite heavily. I feel the pinch. One of very few legit places in F&B, but that's another story altogether. But point being is, it's had a huge impact on our launch there, because it's really disheartening to kind of see that thing. So I think that's where the work that organizations like this are doing encourages entrepreneurship in this community. And growing up, I didn't see many South Asian brown faces that I could look up to. And even right now, we still don't necessarily have it on a huge international level. If you look at the stock exchange and the companies that dominate the Dow Jones and all of these stock exchanges, it's all white faces. And I want to see more diversity in there. I would love to see the next Elon Musk or the next Bill Gates or the next Jeff Bezos to be someone with a brown face or someone with a background. So from my perspective, the work is absolutely critical on a very local level. It gives you more motivation, gives you recognition. It probably definitely helped us in terms of franchising credibility because you come across as an award winner. People have seen the credibility and the recognition. So I think it's essential, and it's essential now more than ever when there's so much negative press about immigration and the negative impact of it. We need to be showing the positive side and show that there are people like ourselves who are working hard, contributing, probably got, I don't know the exact head count, but I think we're over about 120, because obviously our employees are not, franchisees' employees are not directly employed by us. They have their own limited companies. But across the group, we have maybe 120 employees, and there's a huge diverse community here. Funnily enough, the general manager who's managing the Middlesbrough site is a white English girl. So it's like all this negative press, but probably really uncalled for. So I think the work is vitally important. It helps small business owners like myself network, get more recognition. It helps fast track our growth, bring credibility, and we need it now more than ever, really.
I think we're now off. Off the radio show.
So we are off the radio now.
So we're just talking, and I'm down to 8% on my phone.
No, we're going to go.
Can I just make one comment? With Hasan, what he's just been saying there, and absolutely we agree totally with what you said there. But do you not just get a little bit concerned that a lot of it is what we call keyboard warriors?
A lot of them are.
Wouldn't say it to your face.
Yeah. A lot of them are, because you look at their profiles, they never have a profile picture. It's always like an England flag or some random picture of a lion or something like that. So there's no doubt that there's something behind the scenes there. Oh, I think we've lost him.
We possibly have.
Yeah.
I don't know where he's gone. Anyway, on this note, Hasan.
Too much.
No, not at all. Brilliant. That was fantastic. Thank you so much. But the key point that I want to get across and emphasize is, how worthy you are, and you've demonstrated that through credibility, through competence, through capability of being an award winner. And for me, you typify. I don't want to hear or see Elon Musk or a Jeff Bezos. I want to see Hasan Hamid. Is what I want to be seeing. So power to you. Looking forward to welcoming you back to the awards as well. It's in a couple of months' time, and the awards. That people have got a week or so left, 10 days to get a nomination in. So someone must know someone who's deserved and worthy. So please nominate either yourself or actually someone that you know, because we need to demonstrate the power of positivity. And I think that's what I got as your key message was: be positive, persevere, be patient, and actually continue to succeed.
Definitely, and I think it'd be good to catch up as well with you again. Probably overdue one. I know you're very busy.
No, as are you. I need to get you up to Airview and maybe get a burger drop there, or at least get a burger drop van or something going on, which we can talk about, because I think it's a great addition, and you do serve something quite unique, tasty, and exciting. And if you haven't been, please get along to Burger Drop and try those tasty burgers. Take care.
Thank you.